Welcome to Miss V, the Storyteller podcast. You guys, I am so excited today. I have a very special guest with me, and I'm so excited for her to share with you. We had a meet and greet. As you know, we always do our meet and greet, and her and I, we talked and we chatted and we laughed, and we really have gone through some things similar. So she's on the show, and we're going to talk about some things. So with that said, B, please introduce yourself to my audience and tell us about yourself.
Oh, thank you, Miss V. And nice to be with you, Mrs. V's audience. I am Annabelle B. Baumann, and the B stands for Baptista, really. But I started doing stand up comedy in 2020, and I took the B, and it was just fortune because when I was leaving my job, because um, I'm now living in Germany, and I was leaving my job in Boston, and they gave me a little bee as my token, a little pin. And so that has become my sort of totem insect, the bee, and I've used it in all of my communication work. So let me start from the beginning. So I was raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, with a foster family until I was 12. And there were three of us kids in that foster family. And then my real mother came and got me. And then I was in a family of eight. And my mother and I moved around to Colorado. And then we lived in Chicago for a little while. And it was a very tumultuous relationship with my mom and with my family. So I sort of took off on my own and was an emancipated teenager at 16 and had my own apartment and was working as a healthcare aide and just started my own path. But I had been raised with the idea that I was promised a fairy tale. You know, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was waiting for the prince that is promised.
Mhm.
And he came, and of course, he could not live up to that hype. And then we broke up. I have two beautiful children who are now grown, and they live in Rhode Island, where my ex-husband lived. And yeah, so while I was, when my marriage started dissolving, my children were 5 and 6, and we moved to Colorado, but I hadn't gotten my degree yet. I hadn't gone to
Hmm.
college. And I just thought that's the least I can do. And I wanted it for my kids as well.
Yeah.
And when I talked to my ex-husband now, he encouraged me actually to go back to school and that we could share custody of the kids. And that really helped me to be able to get my English degree. And then I moved to Boston, and Boston is where I met my German husband. And that's what brings me to Germany today, all around the world in 30
Awesome.
seconds.
That's awesome. So, we talked, like I said, we talked for a while and we talked about a couple of my stories. So, what story stuck out to you? I know you listened to the podcast and some of the stories. So, what story resonated to you that you said, you know what, I really need to talk about this story?
Yes, panic attacks are real. I really resonated with that story. The panic attacks are real when you're having them. And as a stand up comedian and a speaker who is on the stage, I understand that cold sweat, fear, but then panic attack is at another level.
Yeah, so she chose a story that I that was another hard story. Some of my stories are hard for me to share, but I feel like, if it's going to help somebody, I can get over that and share it. So I'll give you a little bit of background about the story. It's basically when I was younger, I worked at a beauty salon and I was catching the bus to work. Hated it. I don't know who hated it. Anyway, so the secretary who worked in the salon, her and I lived in we lived in neighborhoods across the street from each other. So she was like, "Oh, I'll give you a ride to work. All you have to do is pay me for gas." So we started, riding to work together. And I found out why the ladies at work didn't like her, because she was always late. And so this particular day, we were late for work, and she was flying down the interstate. I mean, I'm telling you, I couldn't even see the other cars. She was driving so fast. We were getting off on that off ramp, because apparently the tire on the car couldn't keep up with as fast as she was going. So
Mm-hmm.
we end up having to pull over because she had a flat tire. Well,
Mm-hmm.
this big 18 wheeler, whatever wheels you want to call, came off the interstate and assumed that he had enough room to get around us, did not, hit the truck that I was in, which in turn pushed it into another truck.
Ooh.
When I came to, I was sitting on the sidewalk crying with a massive headache. Fast forward, I end up in the emergency room, and the doctor said I had a concussion. He gave me some medicine for my headaches, and he told my family member to keep an eye on me, because when you have a concussion, I get home and all of a sudden I am just gone crazy. I'm like, I feel like I'm about to die. I couldn't catch my breath. It was horrible, and I was scared to death. So I called my mom. I'm like, "Mom," I said, "I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die." I was so scared. And she told me, she was telling me to calm down and to breathe. And she was like, "Baby, you're having a panic attack." I was like, "Mama, anybody having, I didn't believe her, but ultimately she was absolutely right. The doctor said, "You are having a panic attack. You're starting to remember what happened in the accident, and it's causing you to have panic attacks." Well, the doctor wanted me to go see some kind of therapist and some medicine and everything. And I'm like, Black people don't go see no therapist. I'm not going to see any therapist. But I realized that it was something that I needed to deal with. Although I did not go to a therapist at the time, I was very young. I was like 19, 20. So come on, a 19, 20-year-old going to therapy, not going to happen. But I did talk to someone who really helped me. She had gone to a therapist, and she gave me some of the tools that the therapist had given her. And then I myself started to doing it to get over it. But I did not think that I had a panic attack because it was a car accident. My brain was like, people overseas that's in the military, they have them. Someone who had something really traumatic happen to them. But at the end of the day, the accident itself was traumatic to me, and that caused me to have panic attacks. So, B, when you heard the story, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it really brought back a rush of memories of growing up in the inner city of Indiana and having such a rough sort of start in life. And then what happened was when I got to college and I was under the pressure of trying to, to work and to be in school, I was beginning to have anxiety attacks. And so I did go to a therapist once or twice because, like you said, that feeling that you get like your body's tingling or
You
and you
can't
don't know if you
breathe, you
can make
can't
the
think.
next step.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a really culminates in your body when you have a mental something happening mentally. And so that just brought home for me how my anxiety attacks started in college with this physical manifestation of trouble in my body. And I even got it again in Germany because I was going. And at this point, I mean, I should say that I do suffer from being, well, not suffer, but I'm mentally divergent, which means I have a mental illness and it is treated with medication. And that can be hard, like you said, when you're thinking, I'm on medication. Why should I be on medication? I shouldn't be on medication for a whole lifetime. And so I struggled with that a little bit. And so I got off the medication. And in my
Mm.
case, it's schizophrenia. And so I got off the medication. and started having these episodes, these anxiety attacks, and I was working. And literally, I was getting eye pops. Like my eyes were just swollen. And it's something like getting you know, pimples on your eyes. And so my eyes were swollen and big. And your body just, when something's going wrong in your mind, your body picks up on that and
Hmm.
starts reacting. And if you don't stop yourself, your body will surely stop you.
Absolutely. Yes, that is so true because your body is like, I'm trying to help you. I'm telling you something is wrong. You need to treat this. Yes,
Mhm.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I was so young, when things happen to you, when you're at different ages or different times of life, you process things differently. But I was like, oh my God. So was there a particular like incident or a story or something that happened to you that made you say, "Oh my God, I have something going on with me"? Was it a like events that happened, or was it something particular? For me, it was the accident. The
Mhm.
accident. I got in the accident, and then that started it for me. So it was something significant that happened in my life that started it. So how was it for you?
Well, growing up in that dynamic, changing environment of a foster home and then a family of eight that I didn't really know, and then moving to Germany. So I had a lot of life events that I just kept soldiering through.
Mm,
And so like I said, in college, I had anxiety attacks, but I was dealing with them the best I could. And then I had a little lull where I thought, okay, I'm okay because I wasn't in any relationships. I was working and everything seemed okay. And then I met my soon to be husband, and he's German. And somehow he brought me to Germany to like visit his family. And then I went back to the US, and somehow my mind just started unraveling. And I didn't
mm,
realize that my mother had, well, I knew my mother had had a nervous breakdown when I was born. That's the reason she put me in foster care. But I didn't know any more than that about it. No one really talked to me about it. And so when I started actually having psychotic episodes where you hear voices and you see things, it came on me quite gradually. It was kind of like, did you hear that? Did you see that? And my husband would be like, no, I didn't see that. Or do you notice that people are following us? I think there's people following us. And sometimes this will happen, and people will see people on the streets who are having a psychotic episode. They look like they're
mm.
talking to themselves, or they're, very skittish or scared. And it could be that mental imbalance, because when you have a mental imbalance, there's nothing you can do about it but seek help. And so mine had to be treated with medication. And like I said, later I got the diagnosis that I had schizophrenia, which is, and it's different for everyone. And I got mine late in life after I was 30, but it just slowly came on. And all I can say is I think it came from just the pressure of my husband, and my lifestyle ironically had improved drastically. Like I had been living in Dorchester in Massachusetts, in a small 1 bedroom with a roommate, basically in a
Oh
cellar,
wow. Wow.
just getting by, but I was getting by. And my husband is an only child, and basically he had a wonderful childhood, so he had a totally different outlook on life and mental process than I had. And when those two things sort of collided because there I was, this inner city girl who had, seen drug addicts and been around all sorts of issues and people with all sorts of criminal backgrounds, that something he didn't know anything about. There was just this lack that I felt in myself, like I don't deserve this life, like I'm not, I should not be here, and I felt that way deep inside myself, like I was not good enough, I was not enough by myself, and I struggle with that even when we came to Germany, because luckily we got my two children into college. And after we got them into college, my husband's parents, who were elderly, his mother had a brain tumor. So we moved to Germany to support his elderly parents. And again, I was in deer in headlights, keep your head down, try not to be seen, hide. I
Mm,
basically was trying to retire from life for fear of people knowing me and knowing what I was about, just afraid to be myself, really. And so, and when my husband asked me, well, are you going to be taking medicine? He just asked, are you going to have to take this medicine your whole life? And I thought to myself, I don't need to take medicine. I feel fine now. I don't need to take medicine. And that's when you know that you are a mental divergent, because there's, of course, mental diversity among everyone. But when you have a chemical imbalance in your brain that stops you, depression,
mm,
schizophrenia, any of these diagnoses and illnesses that cause actual chemical imbalance in your brain that has to be corrected medically, has to be corrected with medication. And when I learned that, after having another psychotic episode, that left me, just like your brain is being ripped apart, because
mm.
when you're fearful and, like you said, and you're nervous and you're scared and you just feel like the world is falling apart or unraveling around you, and you're just trying to hold yourself together in this
Yeah.
space, and that's what a lot of people do, and we think we're so strong, and we are so strong, but we hold on to the point where we have to break down,
Yes.
and they come back, come back.
Yes. But don't you just, when I was listening to your story, I thought about how much God really loves you because he sent exactly what you need, not what you thought you needed, not what you wanted, but he was like, she needs this man. She needs this type of love. And I love that about your story. I'm so sorry that you had to go through a lot of things, but in the end, God was like, I have her, and he sent you exactly what you needed. Another thing that I got from your story is this, that and I believe a lot of women, we do this. Things happen to us and we constantly readapt and adjust and constantly push things down, push it
Mm-hmm.
away, push
Mm-hmm.
it back, and just keep moving on and on and on and on. And then
Mm-hmm.
God is like, okay. And like you said, your body said, okay, you've been pushing, you've been letting it go. You kept moving, but now it's time for you to deal with it. Boom. And then something happens to you. And it's like,
Yeah.
boom. And I am so glad for myself that although I was fighting, the diagnosis, you having a panic attack, you need to have therapy. Although I was fighting it, that last panic attack I had scared me so bad. I was like, I'm gonna do something now. I might not go to therapy, but I'm gonna do something because I can't live like this. And then I start talking to someone. So if you, being that you've gone through all of this, what are some of the things that you learned about yourself as when you have come out of it and you realize, okay, I'm have to take medication for the rest of my life. but I've learned these things about myself. What are some of the things you learned about yourself going through all of this?
I think the biggest thing I learned is the courage to be yourself, the courage to just be in your own truth and let that be. I when you started the segment, you said sometimes I'll tell a story that's uncomfortable for
Mhm.
me, but I know it can help someone else. And that's what I had to learn from myself, that again, that I am enough, that
Yes.
we all have a place on this planet and we all deserve to be here and have our voices heard. So I remember I one day I just found a meme that said, like you said, God placed it in front of my eyes and it said, "Why are you trying to fit in when you were born to stand out?"
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Love
Yeah.
it.
hmm And,
Wow.
and and that was my truth. I I was trying to hide, and it was impossible for me to hide, and because it's like a bull in a china shop. You're just too big to hide. You're too right. You the way you talk, the way you engage with people. So, and that was what I learned about myself, to go ahead and take up the space. It's okay to take up space. It's okay to shine. It's
Yes.
okay. Yeah. And that's the message I try to give to other women, like you said, because it tends to be women, especially in my age group, who didn't so much come up with, who grew up with feminism, but it was just sort of like coming around, whereas my daughter, they had the Me Too movement and all
Hmm.
these other movements that really strengthened them to their core. And it strengthened me as well. But coming from the generation prior, this, born in 64, the baby boomer generation, the housemaker model was still sort of there. Like, you're supposed to have a house and children, and this is basically
Yeah.
the only, or be a nurse, especially for Black women, be a nurse or a teacher. And that's what I got from growing up in the inner city. So I had to let go of all of that baggage and say, no, that's not me. That's not me. And I'm not going to feed that fear any longer. I'm going to stand in my truth. And as I started speaking and became a motivational humorist, I began to talk to other women about, you are the CEO of your life. Show up,
Mm.
and it's crazy because a woman who looks just like us, I remember seeing her when I started this motivational humorist journey being a speaker. And she said, she said, if you're busy telling your life story on Facebook, in Facebook posts, you might as well write a book. And I thought, okay.
Yeah. She's right, because you're
Yeah,
giving it away free when you can, get a
yeah.
book and get a little. Well, something you said that made me think, when you were saying that you're enough. I remember when I lost my voice, and the enemy knew that God wanted to use my voice. And when I got it back, I had to realize that is why every time you turn around, he's trying to make you lose your voice, put your head down, not speak up for yourself, you know. And I
hmm
think when, like, you've been through everything that you've been through, but you came to the point where you realized you are enough, you are worthy, you can take up space. And I think we all have that journey, and we have to get to that point in our lives based on everything we've gone through. And I'm finally getting there. I still struggle with some things, but God is like, no, 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 no. I created you. I chose you. I have a purpose for you. And you are going to you're going to do your assignment here on earth. I'm going to make sure of that. And I love, you got a great smile. You cannot tell what you've been through, which I love. Because some people look like what they've been through. You look at them, you like, darn, whew, mm.
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
been through a lot, but you don't look like it. You're smiling. You seem so happy, and I just love it. Anybody watching will see you have so much joy. And I love the fact that although you've been through a lot, you say, you know what? I'm going to help other people. I'm going to help other women. I don't want them to suffer like me. And I'm kind of glad you did pick this particular story because I know that people are out there that's struggling, that's going through different challenges and won't get help like me.
Mhm.
Won't get therapy or won't go on medication. What would be your advice to those people who are out there, that may hear this, podcast and this story, and what would be your push? What would it be that you could say, you know what? I'm telling you, I've been through this. So what would you say to them to help them to make that decision?
Miss V, I would say, firstly, that it's a gift to be different. It's a gift, whatever your challenge is, that it's been given to you. And as long as you're living with it, then there's a chance you can shape it for yourself. And I think that people who process differently, whether that's mentally struggling with depression or mentally struggling with other issues, anger management, whatever it is, you need to look at how you can help yourself, because the story that you're telling yourself may be that, like you said, like you look like you shouldn't be thriving, and so you're not thriving, but
Mm,
instead plant yourself in some good soil. I started
yes.
looking at, yeah, I started looking at motivational speakers that I like, Lisa Nichols, and
Mm-hmm.
others, and get yourself in some positive energy, because if you're in a negative stew, that's not going to help at all. So yeah, definitely you have to hack your brain and figure out how to get yourself some help. You have to, if your self-talk is beating you down and telling you you don't deserve it, you got to say, listen, you don't know me, because
That's
I got stuff to do.
absolutely. That's right. You have to turn around and talk to yourself. Listen here. Get yourself some help. Just like I was like, listen here. You are having panic attacks. You need some help.
Yeah, exactly. And that's called intrapersonal communication. We all talk to ourselves with little messages and things. And today they've even proven it scientifically that if you give yourself positive messages and
Hmm.
positive goals, that then you can help yourself. Of course, it's not the whole package, but you can at least bring yourself further along if you're being positive, if you're trying to do what's best for yourself. If you see that you're struggling with alcoholism or drug abuse or mental issues, get yourself in a place where you can get some help. Even if you have to, you know, walk to that door and hand somebody a note. Don't even speak it. Just give somebody a note and say, read this, you know.
That is
Um,
so good. I believe in affirmations, but my twist on it is I believe in my own affirmations. I have my
mhm,
own because I
mhm,
say things to myself that, first of all, I need to hear.
yep,
Secondly, I say things to myself that I want to hear from my husband, or some loved ones. I want
mhm,
to hear, I look in the mirror, I'm like, girl, you so pretty. Oh, you look so nice today. I say encouraging things to myself. You're more than enough, girl. You got this. You can do this. Yes, it's hard, but you can do it. God gave you everything. And I put scriptures in.
exactly.
I put scriptures in it. And I've always shared, when even when I'm on other people's podcasts, they ask me about affirmations. I'm like, I'm all for it, but write your own because you know what you need to hear. You know what needs to, that can motivate you. Like for me, I have a tendency to procrastinate. I'm like, all right, now get yourself up. And sometimes it's like real talk. Go ahead and get it done. Stop procrastinating. That is what I need to tell myself to make myself not to go and procrastinate. So
Hmm.
I believe so hard in, like you said, self talk. Talk to yourself the way you desire and you want to be talked to. Now, if you
Hmm.
can't do it, find somebody else in your family or whatever that's going to do that for you because you need to hear it. Oh my
You
God, this has
do.
been so good. So, at the end of my podcast, I always ask questions, and I believe that we've answered the question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, so my listeners will hear it. It says, have you suffered from a panic attack before? If so, what caused them? In my case, it was the accident in the truck. Boom, that caused it. In your case, what would you say? Something specific, or was it
It was for me, I believe it was a culmination of
okay?
things. Yeah, that started with the PTSD from childhood, and
Yeah.
just built on that.
Oh, that's good because people need to realize it comes in different ways. It may be more
Exactly.
than one thing. For
Hmm.
me, it was just that one accident, but for you, it was a combination of a whole bunch of things. And people, if you're listening out there, don't be like me and think, oh, people don't have panic attacks. That's in car accidents. Yes, they do. Because
Hmm.
I did. It can be something small, but the way you process it and the way it happens can turn it into a panic attack because it may have been small, but the way we process it, we made it so much bigger than it was. And now we're having anxiety and a panic attack from something that was small. And it says, how did you deal with them? For me, I dealt with it. Eventually, I did talk to someone when I had the last panic attack. I talked to someone because I'm like, I can't live like this. So, and that person was able to help me. Some years later, I didn't have an accident or anything, but I got to the point where I needed to go to therapy, and I went to therapy. It
Hmm.
was no
Hmm.
longer that thing where your grandparents and your parents talked about, we don't go to therapy. No, no, no. I needed it. I needed it and I went. So for
Hmm.
you, how did you deal with it?
Yeah, I think I am someone who always wants to talk to people. And so I was very open to talking to a therapist and things like that. So that was helpful. But in my case, I definitely needed the medication because I
Mm,
have a brain chemistry imbalance. So so that's different. If you can talk it out and that's help, that is wonderful, but you have to be careful. And if you need medication, get medication.
that's good. That's good advice. And for me, and again, I was 19, 20. So, I'm thinking this is going to be one and done. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was something that I had to constantly work on. The tools that she gave me, and I'm grateful to her. I had to constantly, work on it, especially when I was driving on the interstate. I was scared to death. If a big truck came by, I would just go, oh my God, getting shaking and quaking and all that because of the truck. But then I had to start breathing like she told me to, and
Mm-hmm.
different things I had to do, but I had
Yes.
to do it over and over again until I was able to. Now I drive on the interstate. Listen, you can come up here if you want to, but I'm not scared of you. I'm a whole different person. But I love what you said. If you need to be on medication, get medication. If you need to go to a therapist, go to a therapist. If you need to just talk to somebody and you don't feel comfortable with a therapist, find someone you can talk to and, find the right person, y'all. Please find the right person because that is so key, because you can find the wrong person and it'll make it worse. So, oh my
Mhm.
God, this has been so good. So, B, please tell us if someone wants to reach out to you and talk to you more, maybe they feel comfortable just talking to you because you've been through something that they're going through. How can we reach you? Do you have a book? Do you have anything that's going on where we can learn more about you?
Mhm. Yes, my book is called Girl You Ain't Crazy. and it's a
it.
it's a it's a humorous self-help book that I wrote, that really was for me as well, to say you got this, and so that's out there now. And I'm doing listening course that's going to be online, and you can find that on annabellebaumann.com. That's my website, or Linktree /beebaumann. You can see a lot of things that I'm doing there. Yeah, but B Baumann or Annabelle Baumann, Google me. You'll find me.
Well, I'll
I'm
make
there.
sure that I have everything that you sent me in the
Okay.
description. So
Okay.
all they have to do is just tab down and they'll find all your information,
Great.
especially about the book, because that
Okay.
sounds like it would be hilarious. And, I love to learn, but I also love to learn with some humor in it because I'm crazy myself. So if I
Mhm.
can read a story or if I can read something that's going to make me laugh and learn from it, I'm all in. So thank you so much for I think you're up later or you're getting up earlier to be here with me. So I am so grateful. I know Germany, I've had other people on from different parts of the world, and I'm very appreciative to them, for making this adjustment to be on my show. So thank you so much.
Oh, I'm happy to do it, V. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.